Hello, I have 5 new foundations at various price points and coverage levels to review and give you my thoughts on in today's foundation roundup. You'll see how they apply, what they look like on me, and how they wear throughout the day, as well as what skin types I think would benefit the most from each. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I review a lot of foundations and concealers here on my channel because I'm in my upper 40s and it just gets harder and harder to find the right products as we age. So let's see how these foundations worked for me, or if they didn't, to see if any might work for you. If you've watched my foundation reviews or roundups before, you know I always test foundations for multiple days using no primer, various types of primers, and different application methods, and show you clips throughout that I think give you a good solid picture of my experience with each foundation. I'm 49 years old and have a combination oily skin that's pretty normal around the perimeter and can sometimes be dry, and I get some shine and oil breakthrough in the center of my face, and I live in New Orleans where it is very hot and humid. So I'm very hard on foundations because it's just hard to keep makeup on your face where I live all year, even when it's not hot, because it's humid here all the time anyway. So because of that, I am someone that needs to set my foundations, my cream products, with powder, although you may not be, which is great, but I always show you what they look like before setting. If you're curious about any of the primers and powders that I use, like, and recommend, they're always listed and linked for you in my description box, along with everything I'm sharing and wearing today, and along with my foundation and concealer shade match list. Let's start with Bobbi Brown Weightless Skin Foundation. This retails for $57 for 1 ounce. It's in this beautiful, luxurious glass pump bottle, as it should be for $57. There are 53 shades. The shade I have on my face today is beige. I bought this because the 3 shades that I was sent were all too light for me, and I made beige work for me with some bronzer. It's still a little bit too light though. It's described as light to medium with neutral undertones. I filmed my application clips before beige arrived to me, so you're going to see me apply shade Cool Sand, which was the deepest of the 3. It's described as light with cool undertones. This has a very runny texture, and they give you some instructions to apply it. They say to shake it and then pump it onto the back of your hand and buff it onto your face with a foundation brush, starting where you need the most coverage. They suggest the center of your face, using soft circular motions. This is alcohol-free with no added fragrance, although I do notice a soft, sort of sweet makeup scent, very, very faint when it's first pumped out and when I first apply it, but it dissipates very quickly just from the natural ingredients. They claim this foundation is designed for a range of skin types from oily to dry, and that it controls oil without drying or stripping, while minimizing the look of pores and providing medium natural looking coverage while letting your skin breathe. It's also supposed to provide 24 hours of moisture and be waterproof, sweat and humidity resistant, and not crease, fade, or transfer. So I layered this where I felt I needed more coverage with soft pressing motions, and I would say this gave me medium coverage. And I used a damp sponge on the other half of my face, which I felt gave me light coverage. They do say for lighter coverage on the go to blend it out with your fingers. So the coverage, I would say, is pretty adjustable from light to medium, maybe a tad bit over medium coverage. I blended it out with a damp sponge today and I got medium coverage. You can still see some sunspots, but it evened out my skin tone nicely. Before setting my face, the finish looks really natural. My pores and texture look smooth, and after my face is set, my makeup looks nice, natural, and polished. I know I had 2 clips right after I finished my makeup and I cannot find either of them, but I do have this clip from 4 hours later and my makeup still looks good. So that should tell you that if it looks good at this point, it looked good right after too. Now, whether I'm wearing a primer or not, I have very minimal shine and blotting for around 7 or 8 hours, but you can see here at the 9-hour point, again, it doesn't matter if I'm wearing primer or not, this is around the point where I start to not love it. Some shine starts to come through no matter what I do, which exaggerates my pores and texture. And it starts to look makeup-y, whereas it doesn't look that way earlier in the day. I've tried this several times and it always happens. This was so promising early in the day. Every single day I tried it, but by the end of the day, it just seems to fall apart for me on my shine-prone areas, which is really disappointing because it's supposed to control oil without drying or stripping your skin, and it just doesn't do that for me. I think you can see here, it's already happening. I have had this on for, I would say, about 6 hours now, but I am sitting under my light. So I can tell you right now, I'm gonna have to blot through this entire video to control the shine that's just gonna keep coming through. Aside from the one Bobbi Brown skin tint foundation that I loved, that was holy grail status, that's now discontinued, of course, I haven't had much luck in the Bobbi Brown foundation department. Other Bobbi Brown products, yes, but foundation, they are just not working for me and my skin type. Now, if you have normal to dry skin, even though they say this is oil controlling, this may work better for you. Maybe if you have combination skin and you don't live in the humidity I do, I don't know, but this seemed promising at the beginning of my days, but it ended up failing me. This might be a quick review, but I figured if I was questioning whether Ulta Beauty Complexion Crush foundation was a reformulation or just a repackaging, you might be questioning it too. So I did a little bit of investigating and I figured we would talk about it. And if you've never seen my review of it, I'll share my thoughts here with you too. So this is what it used to look like, and this is what it looks like now. And I don't know if I'm a fan of it. Ulta Beauty is making some changes across their branding, I guess. What are your thoughts? Do you like this new packaging here? I don't know. I guess I feel like it could have been done a little bit better or differently. I'm interested to see what you think. So the old version was $14 for 1 ounce. 2 years ago, this is $16 for 1 ounce, which I don't think is that bad with the way prices have been going up and up and up. It's still priced pretty well. There are still 26 shades. I thought I bought the same shade, light to medium neutral, which is right here. This is light to medium neutral, the new version, which clearly looks different than this shade. But it turns out I had light to medium cool in this old version, which I don't think I would have ordered. I wonder if I got sent the wrong shade and never realized it. I don't know, but anyway, this is what they look like compared, if you're wondering. The texture is a bit thick, but it blends out quickly and easily using any method. It's cruelty-free, vegan, alcohol-free, and fragrance-free, and truly smells like nothing. They say this gives medium buildable coverage with a second skin feel, but because it blurs and diffuses imperfections so well in the process, I think it gives a bit more than medium coverage, leaning almost to medium full. And it gives a really beautiful, natural, good skin finish. It's not too dewy or too matte, and it blurs pores and imperfections and is flattering on all areas of my skin and feels lightweight. I get moderate shine later in the day, but it doesn't ever look greasy or exaggerate fine lines and texture or settle into any creases, and my makeup stays looking nice. It doesn't break down. I was happy to see that this is just a packaging change. The ingredients are exactly the same, the formula is the same, and I think just like with my first review, this is great for any skin type, any age. It's just a really beautiful, affordable, flattering foundation. This might be the most obscure foundation I've ever reviewed. I saw an Instagram ad and it triggered a memory, which it might be doing for other people too, but I ended up pulling the trigger on No Makeup Makeup from Victoria Jackson Cosmetics. Do you remember seeing those ads all over TV back in the day? I think it was the early 90s. I know she worked with a lot of celebrities. Well, apparently she's back, and this is the original minimalist Your Skin But Better foundation, famously loved by millions of women, and it's supposedly cleaner and better than ever. This is a $55 cream balm 4-in-1 formula. There are 13 shades with this shade adaptive, what do they call it, flex shade technology that flexes to cover a range of skin tones to enhance your natural complexion. I got shade light medium. There was a sponge in here. I have no idea where that is. So this cream balm formula is cruelty-free, vegan, skin and truly fragrance free, sensitive skin friendly. It's got jojoba oil and vitamin E, and it's supposed to conceal, correct, camouflage, and diffuse in a single step and function as a color and redness corrector and concealer and foundation all in one. So initially this shade light medium looked a little warm and deep. So even though this is a cream, it sort of feels dry when I apply it. It doesn't have that slit to it like most creams do, which sort of surprised me. I could even hear it swiping against my skin as opposed to, you know, say a stick foundation that just glides right on and has that really creamy texture. Now this does look a little deep and warm at first. And I felt like the enclosed sponge wasn't really meshing the product in with my skin quite the way I wanted it to. So I continued pressing it in with my fingers. I'd almost say the application reminded me more of a powder foundation, except it doesn't swipe on my skin quite as easily as a really good powder foundation. Now that shade that looked too deep and warm at first did end up blending out nicely thanks to that shade adaptive quality, I guess. And this did seem to settle into my skin, my pores better after I just let it settle for a few minutes. I'd say this gives light to medium coverage. Now I do have to set this just like I do a normal foundation. And I found that sometimes when I set it on certain areas of my face, it would lift the foundation. I have a clip of when this happened on my nose and cheeks. It's kind of bizarre. There didn't seem to be a rhyme or reason as to why this happened. But since it's a lighter coverage product, it ended up looking fine. Once my makeup was complete, it kind of blended out and ended up looking okay. It feels lightweight and gives a very natural finish, which it should, given the name. And the coverage lasts well throughout the day, although I do get shiny with it, whether or not I use a primer. And when I do get shiny, my pores are exaggerated quite a bit. I don't really have large pores, so when they're exaggerated, I imagine this would be a pretty big issue for you if you do have larger pores or more texture than I do. I was a little bit confused by this because I thought it was going to be this seamless, easy, creamy product to apply. I thought this was going to be a really great product for normal and dry skin just because of the nature of this cream balm formula, and I thought it was going to continue to look very flattering and natural throughout the day. But because it seemed to be kind of dry upon application and exaggerate pores and texture, I'm not sure this is going to do very well for you if you have dry or mature skin. So if you have normal skin with very little texture, you would probably do really well with this. It would probably, in fact, apply and continue to look like no makeup for you. As with any product I share with you, everybody's going to have different experiences. So many different factors go into how foundations look and wear on our skin, our environment, the skincare we use, our skin chemistry, all of that. These are just my experiences after testing these multiple days under different conditions. I always love hearing your experiences if you've tried any of these. I don't know if I've ever done a foundation roundup with both an Ulta Beauty collection and a Sephora collection product in it, but here we are. This is the Sephora collection Reveal the Real 12-Hour Soft Radiant Skin Tint. This is $22 for 1.01 ounce. Don't forget that 0.01. This retails for $20, and I purchased shade 130N, which is light skin with neutral undertones. This has a runny but sort of lumpy texture to it, and it's supposed to be a light buildable skin tint with a radiant no makeup finish. This does have alcohol as the 5th ingredient, which is going to help smooth and blur. And even though it's fragrance free, I do pick up a little bit of a scent right upon application that does dissipate. Now I started out massaging it in with my fingers to see how much it would initially even out my skin tone, and the coverage was pretty sheer. I layered it on my cheeks, and I'd say with my fingers I got sheer to light coverage. I applied a bit more with a brush to see if it would build on itself some more. I don't get any streaking when I apply it with a brush, and this gives me light coverage that evens my skin tone nicely. You can also apply it with a sponge. It applies really nicely with a sponge too, although I get a little bit less coverage than I do with a brush. Before setting, my skin is smooth and very natural, skin-like skin-like with, I would say, a satin finish. And after my makeup is finished, it looks natural with a soft matte skin-like finish. Without primer, I start getting shine breakthrough around 3.5 hours or so and looking pretty greasy at around 4.5 hours. When I wear a mattifying or blurring primer under it, I can extend that shine breakthrough by maybe an hour, not much. This looked really pretty upon application and for a couple hours after, but because of my skin type, my environment, I just don't think this is the product for me. But if you have normal to dry skin and possibly oily combination skin and live in a less humid environment than I do, and you like a no makeup look with sheer light coverage and are looking for something very portable, easy to apply, that evens out your skin tone, you may really like this. Sephora collection makes some really nice complexion products that live in my makeup collection. This one just isn't quite ideal for me and my skin type, but it could be for yours. I can't even begin to tell you how picky I am when it comes to stick foundations because so many have failed me for so many different reasons. They either cling to dryness I didn't even know I had, or they break up during the day and become patchy, or they make me a complete grease ball. So let's talk about the new Dior Forever Skin Perfect, or is it Skin Perfect, 24-hour multi-use foundation stick. This is $52 for 0.37 ounces. I always hesitate to give the amount of product in stick formulas when I've been talking about liquids because it's always going to be less. They're more concentrated, you use less. It's comparing apples to oranges basically. There are 18 shades currently. I don't know if they're expanding the shade range. I hope they do. I grabbed shade 2N, which is light skin with neutral undertones. This is supposed to basically be magical in that it smooths pores, evens your complexion, eliminates imperfections, and stays on your face because it's heat and humidity resistant, but it also hydrates all day while letting your skin breathe. My favorite way to apply this is swiping it directly onto my skin and blending it out with my fingers or a dry sponge. It's so quick and fast that way, and it really melds into my skin. I've applied it with a brush too, and it does blend out nicely that way, but I always feel like I need to finish pressing it further into my pores with either my fingers or a sponge. So I just rather do the whole job that way. And I don't like applying this with a damp sponge, which is kind of strange for me. For some reason, the coverage seemed to lift off my skin when I applied this with a damp sponge. So for me, it's fingers or a dry sponge only. It really fuses with my skin with both of those methods. Now there is a light, faint, sweet scent often found in luxury complexion products that I notice right here while the stick's in front of me and when I first apply it, but it does dissipate. Fragrance is about halfway down the ingredient list, which shouldn't be an issue unless you have a sensitivity to the particular fragrance that's in here, whether it's natural or synthetic. Because this is a makeup skincare hybrid stick, there are some nice ingredients here that can do some really nice things for our skin too. So you're getting more than just makeup. Now, I didn't see anything in the claims initially about coverage or finish aside from them saying it's buildable, which can mean a lot of things. So I'd say, based on my experiences with this, that it's buildable from light to somewhere between medium to medium full coverage, depending on how you apply it and how much you layer it, with a very soft, natural finish before I set it. And once it's set, it turns into sort of a natural matte finish. On days when I wore this with mattifying sunscreens or mattifying primers, I started to feel kind of dry later in the day. But when I use my regular sunscreens and primers, moisturizers, or no primer, my skin felt really nice. I do get some shine with it during the day, but it's not overly so. It never looks overly greasy or overly heavy. It blots nicely and doesn't break down. It wears phenomenally well, which kind of surprised me since it is a makeup skincare hybrid stick. I wore this on some extremely hot 100+ degree days with major humidity. We're talking a 90% humidity, and it lasted on those days, even without primer. This is one of those foundations that seems to look better and better throughout the day as it settles and continues to mesh with my skin. To say I was impressed with this stick foundation is an understatement. This seems to me like a very adaptable, flexible stick foundation, makeup, skincare stick foundation that could potentially work across various skin types as long as you prep your skin properly and not necessarily the way that you think. I thought I was going to need mattifying products, but I really didn't need that with this. There have been many luxury foundation purchases I've regretted making for these foundation reviews, but this is not one of them. I think this is a beautiful stick foundation. Have you tried this or any of the foundations I've shared today or the new Huda Beauty Easy Blur? I did a separate review for that one. I just felt like it was a little more detailed with the primer too. If you haven't seen it or if you want to see other foundation roundups and reviews, you can check those out here. If you enjoyed this and found this helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.